What we do is we help, facilitate the creation of a dreams list for an individual. Environment matters so much. And so what that changes for the average worker is they're no longer limited. I would say it's a more competitive market than it's ever been to be able to attract, but then also retain our top talent. I've seen a lot of growth and wins in is really looking at the individual as an individual first. What it does is it gives us this insight into the person that is such a full picture.
Good day, everyone. This is Dr. David Phelps of the Freedom Founders Mastermind community and the Dentist Freedom Blueprint podcast. Really have the pleasure to have a conversation today with a gentleman who was referred to me, which is often the way I get to meet people that I think are very influential, thought leaders, really making a difference in the world, the business world, the community at large. And this gentleman is one of those. I'm very pleased to have Mr. Dane Espegard with us today. Dane, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Excited to talk.
Dane, we were referred by someone who is very influential in our space and helps a lot of people like us get our message out. I'll just say her name. She's this great Amber Vilhauer. And I know that you and Amber and a number of people that she's also introduced me to came from Cutco. There was a lot of principles that you all have learned out of Cutco, because I've met so many people that came from that group, from that origin. I'm going to give your bio in a minute, but could you just for our interest of our audience, talk a little bit about the culture of Cutco and why it seems like people that come out of Cutco just seem to like to take life by storm in a good way?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. I could talk on that. I know that's not the purpose. I could talk on that forever. I think the main thing is that Cutco's got this amazing culture that's centered around personal growth. And for a lot of it also, I think, has to do with the age dynamic that they're working with. And so I got started with Cutco right out of high school as an 18-year-old. And, at that point, I wasn't necessarily exposed to a lot of personal or professional growth. And so I was introduced to that concept at Cutco, and there was never a shortage of resources of, hey, this book or this audio. And, then that later on turned into podcasts, and a bunch of people in Cutco are attending these seminars and going to Tony Robbins. And so there's just, environment matters so much. And in the Cutco world, there's so many leaders that are practicing personal development. And so for me, I was learning sales, business, marketing, entrepreneurship. And the mentors for myself in business were constantly talking about personal growth. How are you growing? So I think that combination in getting somebody at 18, 19, 20 years old and then facilitating that growth, being the vehicle for it, I think that's kind of what that, the equation is to create a lot of these people that you're talking about.
So that really sets us up for today, I believe, because we're going to talk about your emphasis on culture and why that's so important. So you came out of it, you lived it, you've breathed it, you've seen what it has done for you and other people. The personal growth, having the resources. I think too often that business owners, we just want to hire someone to take a spot, fill a spot. Yeah. And anyway, we'll get into that. I gotta get your background out. I get too excited about this stuff. This is really good. So Dane Espegard, he's a culture consultant who teaches, assists, and executes the implementation of a culture centered around dream achieving. We're going to get into that. What does that mean? The system is bottom up and puts the emphasis on the development and personal lives of the team member. Dane works with companies in a very simple manner to get the culture started and leaves them with some very easy to implement steps. You can connect with Dane at his website, DaneEspegard.com, and I'm going to spell that for you. It's Dane, D-A-N-E, last name Espegard, E-S-P-E-G-A-R-D.com. Dane's been public speaking and training individuals for over 15 years while implementing his system for vector marketing, where he is a division manager and operating the top performing team in the nation. Just a little bit of personal history. I know that you're very passionate about being a father and a husband first in your life. You're married and raising, as you would call them, two young people. I'll leave it there. You're from Wisconsin, reside just outside the Twin Cities of Minnesota. And one of the things that you and your family really love is to travel. So some freedom, some time to to see other parts of the country or the world. So let's talk about this. I was thinking in terms of, when we had our discussion a week or so ago, is why this is so important to talk about personal growth, development, resources, helping our team members, our staff, the people that are so important. And unfortunately, Dane, and you know this, is a lot of businesses and the owners think about their team, their staff, their employees as cost. It's a cost. Oh my gosh, we got to bring someone else in, and what's that going to look like on our P&L, right? And oh my gosh, they've got to be able to produce X, Y, Z. And then we've also had this, I think, this big epiphany in this last year with the pandemic. That has really shaken, I think, our culture and the way people are looking at their lives today. Certainly, if you're a business owner, well, you can talk about how you had to get through COVID and all the things you had to go through, and maybe changing your thinking. But you know what? Your team, your staff, your employees, I still commuting to this job that maybe it pays, X, Y, Z, and that's been pretty good pay for me. But I spend a lot of time commuting. Maybe that's one of the issues that they have, or maybe it's an environment where there is no personal growth. It's just basically come in, take your spot, do your work, and you get paid, and whatever other benefits. And that's not a place where people thrive. I mean, everybody has to have that dream, that vision of why they matter. People want to be appreciated. So anyway, I'm gonna stop there and let you pick up from there, because I know you've got a lot to say about this topic.
Yeah, I think that if anything, I think that the pandemic, it changed obviously everything, right? One of the things that I think it changed from an employer's perspective is that we're no longer competing for talent with just the other, neighboring businesses, right? And pre-pandemic, it was really unique to find a job that somebody's going to work remote or, have that flexibility. And so we really were competing with the other employers in the area. And now that the entire world shifted, there's a lot of businesses that are still 100% remote, and many that are going to stay a certain portion of their work being remote. And so what that changes for the average worker is they're no longer limited, by the logistics of, can I get to work? And the idea of me taking a job with a company that's rooted states away, I don't have to upend my family. And so, I would say it's a more competitive market than it's ever been to be able to attract, but then also retain our top talent. And so then that poses the question of, well, if I have somebody who's great on my team now, and the work dynamic just shifted, the workplace market, what's that thing? What's that X factor that's keeping somebody here at this business? And if your answer is, well, I pay him a good amount, that's no longer cuts it, for most people.
No, people are looking more at quality of life, the time that they spend. Anybody who is in a business or goes to work in a business, you spend the majority of your time with those people, not with your family, not with your spouse, right? So if that's the case, then don't you want to be in a place where you feel like you are appreciated, an environment where there's not a lot of gossip and backbiting, which is so common in so many environments, and people are just not going to put up with that today. People have learned that they have choices and options that we didn't have before because of the remote aspect of many jobs today. The flexibility, being able to spend time with your kids, or go to your kids' soccer games or their school play, things that in the past many hardworking and hard-driven business entrepreneurs will just say, well, that's just life. I just it's what I got to do. And it's like, well, COVID just kind of shifted that around. So do I have to still go by the same paradigms that have been in the past? And it's been reshuffled completely. So I would submit, Dane, that going forward, right now going forward, and we still have a quote labor shortage, big time. But I think going forward, that the shifts that we have experienced and are talking about here right now today, that particularly employers in this case, the business owner, has really got to get a grasp on these terms that are loosely played out in the marketplace forever. Leadership and culture. Wow, those get bandied about all the time. Okay, well, I think I'm a good guy. I do good work. I don't cheat. I have integrity. I'm sorry, that's not enough. It's going back to, how are you sewing into the lives and dreams and aspirations of the people who have shown up or are part of your team, or who you want to show up maybe improve your business or where you have needs. let's talk, I mean, there's two aspects. There's the attract and retention, right? Retention is a big deal because turnover, especially of highly valued people for whatever reason, there's a huge cost to that. I mean, a huge cost. You want to talk a little bit about that? Because I know that's something that you help your clients look at when they're evaluating, how they're filling out their labor force.
Yeah, I think that with what the culture that we try and set up that's centered around dreams, the difference with that is that it's recognizing that, our employees, our team members, they don't have, it no longer exists that there's these two separate worlds. I have a work life and I have a home life, right? And the line used to maybe be blurry. It's like there is no line anymore, especially with people working from home more. It's there both, and how we are at work influences how we feel at home and vice versa. And so when I think about this shift of what I've seen a lot of growth and wins in, is really looking at the individual as an individual first. And it's a different way of leadership. Usually, again, we're going to look at somebody, what their role is in our organization or a business, and say, well, that their job is this. And in reality, it's like, well, actually, there's way more to that person. That person's a mom, a dad, a husband, a wife. They've got a family, and then work is really a vehicle for them to get to where they want to be. And I think that if the employee, that's the way an employee looks at it, right? They're not deathly loyal to that job. To them, they could be somewhere else in a couple of years, and they know that, but they're still going to be with their family. They're still going to be, so they're really looking out for what? Them, number one.
Sure.
And if I can align that and say, I also care about you, number one, and if that means that you're not here in the future because you're off to a better opportunity, I'm okay with that. What I want is for while you're here, I want you to be engaged. I want you to be alive. And the only way that happens is if I actually take genuine interest in them as a person. And in the dreams, the concept of the dreams, that just gives us a kind of like a playing field or a terminology for us to engage in that conversation about that person.
I'm gonna just jump in right now, and so people know that with the consulting you've done, obviously you've done this for many, many years, and you actually have a new book coming out on this very concept. It's called The Dream Machine, and it's actually available at the end of this month, September 28th. So we'll put a link in our show notes because I think it would be a great resource to take from our conversation today. So let's go back and give me some specific examples, if you would, Dane, about a person, a staff member, an employee who you learn more about what their aspirations are, and what kind of resources, opportunities, training that would allow them to have that personal growth. What sort of things are available? Just give us some examples that might help our listeners today.
Sure. So the concept of this, I think there's more to this, that there's just a leadership conversation in general, right? If we're talking and we're centered around this dreams concept, the idea with what we do is we help, facilitate the creation of a dreams list for an individual, right? So team members within that team, they create their dreams list, which, when I was new to this, the list was typically like 100 to 150 per employee. More recently, as I've done this, I did this with Amber's team. The average person at her company came up with over 300.
Wow.
Right. And so what this is, it's a list of there's 9 different categories that we take them through, but it's travel, adventure, material, vocational, creative, spiritual. It basically covers everything. And so the idea is, hey, let's daydream a little bit and let's have some fun. And what are some things that would light you up and get you excited in the world? And if given the opportunity, I try and get access to that. I'll ask them. I'd say, hey, David, invitation, not obligation. I'd love to see your list if possible. No judgment from it, but you work here, and on our team, we like to do little thank yous, little contests here or there, that type of thing. Instead of just giving you a generic gift card to, the local restaurant or something, right. I'd love to be able to pick something out on your dreams list. But what it does is it gives us this insight into the person that is such a full picture. It's not how they show up today to work, but I get to see what are their health goals. And a lot of the things that are on the list, they haven't even shared with friends and family. And so it's a really cool connection. But then, an example that comes to mind is somebody who was on my team she worked with us for about 6 years. Her name's Marie. And we helped Marie make her list. On her list, we go through the category of vocation. right? Which is kind of scary as an employer. I'm saying, what are your
Right.
vocational goals? And oftentimes it's probably not stay at this job forever, right? If we're thinking big. And so for her, you know, she had a few work goals of our business, but then on there, she also had start her own administrative assistant business. And then there were other things on there, but I was able to look at that. I knew she wasn't necessarily a lifer with us. And so I was then able to start giving her different duties and working with her differently to line up skills and tasks that she was going to do that would be in line with that owning of an administrative assistant business. And she ended up ultimately leaving, starting her own business. But what happened during the time that she was there, she was so much more engaged.
Right.
She wasn't asleep at the wheel. It was, we were helping her, you know, quote unquote, live the life of her dreams.
Yes.
And that relationship is strong, even on exit. And I think that there's just, you know, it's operating differently, not the fear of losing someone, right? I have a fear of somebody being totally passive and asleep while they're working is what I have a fear of. I'd rather have them here less amount of time, but really engaged in driving.
If you enjoyed watching or learning from this video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more content. If you have a question about any of my content or this specific video, just please leave a comment down below. And as always, stay focused on your freedom. I'll see you next time.